Hello there, my very good friends. Andy Murray here for What Culture Wrestling, back again with another weekly breakdown of the wonderful Vice series Dark Side of the Ring. And the latest episode, which went out last night, was all about the murder of Dino Bravo. Now, I think it's pretty fair to say that for certain types of wrestling fans in certain age groups, maybe Dino Bravo isn't the biggest name that this series has covered so far, but you know, when you sit down and you have a look at the topic, it's easily one of the most interesting things they could possibly have dived into on Dark Side of the Ring. Pretty much because it's a big, dark, murky mystery with so many unanswered questions. And in fact, on this show, on this very episode, it was actually the first time that the family of Dino Bravo have come forward and spoken about what went down. So there's a lot of new stuff here, and I'm going to try and condense it. But before I do that, here's a quick rundown of Dino Bravo and his career. He was a major wrestling star in the Quebec territory in the 70s and 80s. At one point, he's described as being a bigger star there than Andre the Goddamn Giant. And we even get a story about how there was intended to be a dream match pitting Dino Bravo against Hulk Hogan, but Hulk Hogan was pulled by the WWF because they thought Dino was going to get better crowd reactions. That really puts into perspective his star power. Now, Dino, like other territorial wrestlers and promoters at the time, tried to fight WWE's influence. He didn't want them coming in, taking all the wrestlers and ransacking the territory. In the end, however, he was defeated. WWE did just that. He had no choice but to go and sign with the promotion. He was with them until 1992 when his contract expired. Then, in March 1993, he was killed in his own home. But with that little biography out of the way, let's get to the juice. I'm Andy for What Culture Wrestling, and here are 5 things that we learned from Vice's Dark Side of the Ring, Dino Bravo. Number 5, the beginning of the end. There's a lot of really good stuff on this episode from Jimmy Hart, who was Dino's manager for a while he was in the then WWF. Now, Dino, when he signed, was given a guaranteed downside of $300,000 a year and could earn up to $1 million once bonuses and other things were taken into account. Now, this was a lot more money than he was ever going to earn on the territories. So, of course, you know, with the income going up, so too went the lifestyle. He was spending lavishly. He bought a $1 million house, he was buying fancy sports cars, and in one particularly extravagant moment, he bought his daughter a bright red sports car. His daughter was 4 years old. But things went south for Dino in WWE when the company decided they were going to turn him into a generic anti-American heel with bleached blonde hair. Now, this was a big hit to a man who clearly valued himself at a higher level than Vince McMahon. He was getting mocked for his image, he looked kind of silly, and he was on the downswing. He had a real problem with jobbing out to guys he didn't see as top stars, and people just stopped believing in him. Now, there's a lot of other stuff in here as well. It's noted that, you know, Dino's style of wrestling, it was kind of basic and it didn't really evolve, and, you know, he didn't speak the best English, so promos and character work were really difficult for him, but it all led ultimately to his release from the company in 1992. Having never been lower in the promotion, Dino's contract expired and he was let go. And of course, when that happens, when you go from significant stardom and wealth and fame and all those things, and you suddenly have that taken away, you fall on hard times, which leads us to Dino's next line of work. Number 4, his slide into organised crime. So this was understandably a very difficult time for Dino. Suddenly he had this lifestyle, he had the house, he had these bills, everything was mounting up, but he had no more hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in paychecks, he had no income, he had no way to support his family. So unfortunately, he slid towards a very murky world indeed. It's noted that Dino already had connections to the Catroni crime family in Quebec. They were, well, the father of that crime family, Vic Catroni, was actually his uncle and a former wrestler from back in the 30s. That was his way in. And we get some accounts on this documentary. His wife, Diane, in fact, says that more and more people he called friends started showing up. They were getting involved in his life, but they weren't really friends. They were associates that he was doing business with, and none of them had a good vibe. So Dino was recruited into the Catroni crime family, and he was pretty much the perfect enforcer. He was a gentle soul at times, albeit one with a temper. However, He was big, he was burly, he was freakishly strong, and he was hella intimidating. He was the perfect strongman for that role, and he slid into the narcotics arm of the family's organization. Number 3, the $400,000 theory. The only wrestler that Dino ever confided in with regards to his organized crime career was Rick Martel. Now, Rick declined to be interviewed for this Vice episode. He said, nah, but we did get some footage from him back in 2007 when he spoke candidly about Dino's death. So as we learn from the documentary, Dino was involved in the smuggling of cigarettes. Now, control of narcotics was a big thing for all kinds of organised crime groups across the state, across the city. They all wanted a slice. So we get a story here. There's a person, a murky person on this that Martel refers to as a big cocaine guy. This guy came to Dino with a deal. Cut me into your world, I want a slice of this smuggled cigarette money, and I'll cut you into mine. This went down like this. A few days before Dino was killed, a shipment worth something in the region of $400,000 in smuggled cigarettes was taken. It was seized by the police from a warehouse in which it had been sitting. Now, the police had been monitoring the situation there for a few days, and they actually caught Dino on the premises before the seizure went down. So the cocaine guy, he shows up, presumably, to collect his shipment, and he gets arrested. This leads to a lot of heat between both sides, between Dino and the other side. They're blaming each other, and, well, a few days later, the poor guy had been killed in his own home. Now, again, it should be stressed that this is a theory, but as local crime reporter Claude Poirier says on the show he was interviewed, $400,000 is definitely a sum that the people who Dino was associated with would kill for. And again, I must stress, the murder remains open. It is not a closed case. No one has ever been able to say for sure that this is what led to Dino's death. But man, it's a story that you can't ignore. Number 2, the hit was done by professionals. So as I've mentioned, Dino Bravo was found with 11 bullet holes in his body in his own home. But you know, when you hear a story like this, you might think that people broke in, there was a struggle, there was a fight, there'd be debris everywhere, maybe some bullet holes, maybe this, maybe that. Nah, there was none of that. In fact, the front door was open. It was unlocked. What had happened was whoever did this had waited for Dino's wife and his daughter to go out to a ballet show. They'd come in, Dino had presumably let them in because there was no sign of a fight, there was no sign of a struggle, the door wasn't busted up in the slightest, it was clean, almost, as clean as such a thing could be, despite, you know, the brutality of the whole situation. Jacques Rougeau, who's another wrestler interviewed for this thing, says that it must have been done by a friend, someone Dino trusted, and someone that he willingly let into his own home. But who was it? Well, that's a question that nobody has ever been able to answer. Number 1, the impact Dino's death had on his family. I think these Vice episodes always hit hardest when we get to the people left behind, and in the case of Dino's widow and his daughter Claudia, well, their reaction was kind of heartbreaking, man. Like, they couldn't bring themselves to keep hold of a single possession that Dino had. So Diane, well, she gave them all away. Everything. Ring gear, mementos, every single thing was given away to friends and family because it would only bring them more hurt. And in one particularly heavy moment here, we get a story from Claudia saying, you know, maybe it's best we don't know who did this. Maybe it's best we don't know what happened because perhaps it would only make us angrier. As you can probably imagine, it's a really rough thing to watch. And ultimately, the police declined to participate, much like Rick Martel, on the basis that the case, almost 30 years later, is still open. Anyway guys, that's it. My take on the latest episode of Vice's Dark Side of the Ring on Dino Bravo is done. This is a crazy topic and it's one I'm sure you've got a lot to say about, so go ahead and do that right now down in the comment section below. Once you've done that, don't forget to like, share, subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. Then you can follow us on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE and myself at Andy H. Murray, where you can tell me how wrong I am. Goodbye.